Elizabeth II, also known as Elizabeth Alexandra Mary, was the Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland and other territories. She was born on April 21, 1926, in London, England, and passed away on September 8, 2022, at Balmoral Castle in Aberdeenshire, Scotland. She became the Queen on February 6, 1952, and ruled with grace until her passing. In 2015, she made history by becoming the longest reigning monarch in British history, surpassing Queen Victoria. Elizabeth II's reign left a lasting impact on the United Kingdom and its people. Elizabeth, the older daughter of Prince Albert, Duke of York, and Lady Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, didn't have much chance of becoming a queen initially because she was the child of a younger son of King George V. However, her fate changed when her uncle, Edward VIII, later known as the Duke of Windsor, stepped down, and her father became King George VI on December 11, 1936. This made her the next in line to the throne. Her education was taken care of by her mother, who hired a governess named Marion Crawford. Additionally, she learned about history from C.H.K. Martin, who later became the provost of Eton College. She also had teachers who visited her to teach music and languages. During World War II, Elizabeth and her sister, Princess Margaret Rose, stayed away from the dangers of the London bombings. They were kept safe from harm, living mostly at Balmoral Castle in Scotland and occasionally at the Royal Lodge and Windsor Castle, away from their parents, who were also separated due to the war. At the beginning of 1947, Princess Elizabeth went to South Africa with her parents, the King and Queen. When she returned, it was announced that she was going to marry her distant cousin, Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten of the Royal Navy, who was previously known as Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark. They got married in a big ceremony at Westminster Abbey on November 20, 1947. Before the wedding, her father, the King, gave Philip the titles of Duke of Edinburgh, Earl of Meroneth, and Baron Greenwich. After getting married, they lived at Clarence House in London. They welcomed their first child, Prince Charles, his full name is Charles Philip Arthur George, on November 14, 1948, at Buckingham Palace. In the summer of 1951, King George VI fell seriously ill, and Princess Elizabeth started representing him at important events. On October 7, she and her husband went on a successful trip to Canada and Washington, D.C. After spending Christmas in England, they began a tour of Australia and New Zealand in January 1952. However, during their trip in Sagna, Kenya, they received the sad news of the King's death on February 6, 1952. Elizabeth, now the Queen, quickly returned to England. For the first 3 months of her reign, she stayed away from public events to mourn her father. Later, after moving from Clarence House to Buckingham Palace, she took on the responsibilities of a queen. She performed her first state opening of Parliament on November 4, 1952, and her official coronation was held at Westminster Abbey on June 2, 1953. Starting from November 1953, Queen Elizabeth and the Duke of Edinburgh embarked on a big tour that lasted 6 months, covering many countries in the Commonwealth. This trip was special because it was the first time a British monarch had visited Australia and New Zealand while still in power. In 1957, after visiting European countries, they went to Canada and the United States. In 1961, Queen Elizabeth made a significant journey to the Indian subcontinent, which was the first royal British visit there in 50 years. She also became the first ruling British monarch to visit South America in 1968 and the Persian Gulf countries in 1979. During her Silver Jubilee celebrations in 1977, Queen Elizabeth hosted a grand banquet in London attended by leaders from all 36 Commonwealth nations. She travelled extensively within Britain and Northern Ireland, and to overseas destinations like the South Pacific, Australia, Canada, and the Caribbean. These travels showed her strong presence and dedication to her many realms. When Queen Elizabeth became the Queen, her son Prince Charles became the next in line for the throne and was called the Prince of Wales on July 26, 1958. He officially received this title on July 1, 1969. Queen Elizabeth had other children, Princess Anne, born on August 15, 1950, who was later called the Princess Royal in 1987. There was also Prince Andrew, born on February 19, 1960, who became the Duke of York in 1986, and Prince Edward, born on March 10, 1964, who was made the Earl of Wessex and Viscount Severn in 1999. All of Queen Elizabeth's children have the last name of Windsor. In 1960, Queen Elizabeth decided to use the name Mountbatten Windsor for her descendants who were not given the titles of Prince or Princess and Royal Highness. The Queen's first grandchild, who is Princess Anne's son, was born on November 15, 1977. The Queen became more aware of the modern role of the monarchy. For instance, in 1970, she allowed the royal family's daily life to be shown on TV and supported her sister's divorce in 1978. But in the 1990s, the royal family faced many problems. In 1992, a tough year that the Queen called the royal families, Annus Horribilis, Prince Charles and Princess Diana, as well as Prince Andrew and Sarah, Duchess of York, separated. Annie also got divorced, and a big fire damaged Windsor Castle, their historic home. Additionally, economic problems made people upset about how the royals lived. In 1992, Queen Elizabeth, though she didn't have to, agreed to pay taxes on her private income. The divorce of Prince Charles and Diana in 1996 made people like the royal family even less. Things got worse after Diana's sad death in 1997, especially when Queen Elizabeth didn't want to fly the national flag at half-staff over Buckingham Palace at first. To make the monarchy more modern, the Queen tried to show a friendlier and less traditional side. However, these efforts had mixed results as the royal family tried to adjust to a changing world. In 2002, Queen Elizabeth completed 50 years as the Queen, and her Golden Jubilee was celebrated across the Commonwealth, including several days of events in London. However, the joy was tinged with sadness due to the passing of Elizabeth's mother and sister earlier that year. As the years passed, people's opinion of the royal family improved. Even Prince Charles's marriage to Camilla Parker Bowles in 2005 was widely supported by the British people. In April 2011, Queen Elizabeth led the family in celebrating the wedding of Prince William, Charles and Diana's eldest son, to Catherine Middleton. The next month, she achieved a significant milestone, becoming the second longest reigning monarch in British history, after Queen Victoria, who had ruled for 63 years and 216 days. In May of the same year, Queen Elizabeth made history by visiting Ireland, being the first British monarch to do so since 1911. In 2012, she celebrated her Diamond Jubilee, marking an impressive 60 years on the throne. On September 9, 2015, she surpassed Queen Victoria's record, becoming the longest reigning monarch in British history. In August 2017, Prince Philip retired from public life, although he still attended some events. Around the same time, Queen Elizabeth began to reduce her official duties, sharing them with Prince Charles and other senior family members. But when Prince Harry and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, decided to step back from royal duties in March 2020, the available helpers became fewer. During this period, people's interest in the Queen and the royal family grew, partly because of the popular Netflix series, The Crown, which started in 2016. Despite facing health issues, Prince Philip, who had been Elizabeth's husband for over 7 decades, passed away in April 2021. On their 50th wedding anniversary in 1997, Queen Elizabeth had described Philip as her main support. Due to COVID-19 rules, the Queen sat alone at Prince Philip's funeral in St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle. The widely shared pictures of her sitting alone were sad, but they showed her strength and bravery during her reign. In June 2022, Britain celebrated a special occasion. Queen Elizabeth completed 70 years as the Queen, called the Platinum Jubilee. The country observed this event with a 4-day national holiday filled with important activities. The celebrations included the famous Trooping the Colour ceremony, a Thanksgiving service at St. Paul's Cathedral, a lively pop music concert at Buckingham Palace, and a grand pageant. This pageant displayed a mix of street arts, theatre, music, circus acts, carnival celebrations, and beautiful costumes, all created to honor the Queen's long and impactful rule. However, due to health issues, Queen Elizabeth couldn't participate actively in these events. Her health problems also led to a change in tradition. In September, instead of appointing Boris Johnson's replacement as Prime Minister at Buckingham Palace, as she did for many Prime Ministers before, Queen Elizabeth made the appointment at Balmoral. This was a departure from the usual way, showing the Queen's ongoing dedication despite her health challenges. Just a few days later, on September 8, the news of Elizabeth's passing at the age of 96 deeply saddened people in Britain and all over the world. Prince Charles then became King Charles III. After her passing, a planned 10-day national event to honor her life, known as Operation London Bridge, began. Her body was kept for a day in St. Giles Cathedral in Edinburgh and then for 3 days in Westminster Hall in London. People lined up outside Westminster Hall for miles, some waiting for more than a day, to pay their respects to Elizabeth. Her funeral, held at Westminster Abbey on September 19, was attended by around 100 leaders from other countries and was a somber affair. A procession to Wellington Arch followed, with Big Ben tolling in the background. Then, Elizabeth's casket was taken to her final resting place in St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle. This marked the end of a significant era and made people around the world reflect on the remarkable life of Queen Elizabeth. Elizabeth preferred a simple court life and took a keen interest in government affairs, not just ceremonial duties. In her personal life, she loved horse riding, owned racehorses, and often went to races. She even visited stud farms in the United States. She was also very wealthy due to her financial and property investments, making her one of the richest women in the world. Queen Elizabeth II's life teaches us important lessons. She shows us the value of dedication and duty through her service to her country. Her ability to adapt to change teaches us to be flexible and open-minded. Facing challenges with grace, she demonstrates the strength found in difficult situations. Balancing tradition with modern ways, she shows the importance of respecting our heritage while embracing new ideas. As a leader, she inspires and unites people from different countries, teaching us about true leadership. Her sense of responsibility reminds us to fulfill our duties with dedication. Managing her public and private life, she shows the importance of finding a balance. Her long and stable reign teaches us the value of consistency. Lastly, her understanding of history teaches us to learn from the past for a better future.